Yeah, I messed up the camera with new OBS experiments. So just wanted to real quick highlight the difference between what you see in code, right? Or code as such, however you want to conceive of it, right? So the language, the things in the language, how the syntax is, right? From the structure or the pattern of the code. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but back in the day before Linux was 1.0, a lot of people were working on the code and submitting changes and finding errors. And I would just go through the code and format it correctly. Now, I know there's religious wars about formatting, particularly with C, but actually there are ways that work and almost an infinite number of ways that don't work. And it's not that you can't do them, it just takes more effort and you have more bugs. So the problem with the people working on Linux at the time was that they had a stupid way of dealing with braces that was inconsistent and asymmetrical. So it turns out that if you go through the code and you make it consistent and symmetrical, you can find off by one errors reliably without reading any of the code, any of it. Not a single line, not a variable equals, not a for loop, not an if statement, none of it. You don't need to. You can find the off by one errors by the structure of the code. You can't find all of them, but like being able to find them without reading code, do you know how fast I'd correct code? Holy crap. I can just go through hundreds of pages of code in like an hour and fix a bunch of bugs without even knowing what the bugs affected or where they were in the code per se, because I'm just formatting the code and going, oh, got to be a bug here. And then I can look at the code, fix the bug, bang, move right on. Oh, got to be a bug here, bang. That's the power of having a good structure. As the things in the structure and the structure interact. They're not equal, right? They don't reciprocate in that way, but they interact and they affect one another. Ooh, right. That's what everyone's missing. We'll say on the outside world, outside of computers, that pattern is right there in the computers. So I thought I'd just highlight that because I think it's important. When you move the complexity of, say, the structure, or say you add structure where you don't need it, it's a reason why I didn't write my own programming language. Python came along. I said, oh, the one most important feature in a programming language is in Python, which is you can look at the code and tell immediately certain types of errors, whether or not they're there. And it's less typing. You don't need braces. What are you doing with braces? You don't need that stuff. So it's important to be able to look at the structure because it tells you something about the content that is being held by the structure. It tells you something about limitations, the constraints, and the advantages and the disadvantages, right? And we don't do that. We look at the A equals 2. That's not going to help you find an off by one error, buddy. But the structure might. It won't find them all, but it'll find a lot of them. It's important to know. It's important to know that that pattern exists. It's not just in computers. Computers is just a self-similar microcosm of what's going on. Good to know.